In the year 1740, Lancaster, Pennsylvania was a burgeoning settlement, alive with the promise of the New World, and bustling with the fervor of trade and development. But amid the ordinary lives of its citizens, a shadow was cast, a harbinger of doom, a creature neither bound by space nor time, that would stalk the city's history with terrifying frequency. The Mothman, as it would come to be known, first made its appearance on a cold, wind-swept night in November. A farmer, Isaac Whitmer, was returning from his fields when he stumbled upon the creature. Its eyes glowed a fiery red, casting an hypnotic light that seemed to bore into his very soul. Isaac described it as an immense being, towering over 7 feet tall, with wings as white as snow, yet tinged with an aura of utter dread. His encounter was not an isolated incident. Soon, others began to report similar sightings. A group of children claimed to have seen the Mothman near the Susquehanna River, its gaze causing the water to boil and churn as if cursed by some otherworldly power. An old widow, Abigail Hess, spotted the creature perched atop the steeple of the Moravian church, its screeching cry echoing through the valley like a portent of disaster. Lancaster was a town wrought with superstition and fear, and the presence of the Mothman only served to stoke the flames of terror. Tales of the creature spread like wildfire, becoming part of the very fabric of the city's folklore. Yet, there was something else, a pattern emerging, a connection between the Mothman's appearances and tragic events. Whenever the creature was spotted, calamity seemed to follow. A fire that consumed a mill, the drowning of a young boy, a deadly outbreak of smallpox, all these tragedies were preceded by sightings of the Mothman. The creature became a symbol of death, a grim omen warning of impending doom. The city's leaders were at a loss. They sought the guidance of scholars, scientists, and theologians, but none could explain or comprehend the Mothman's existence. Some argued that it was a large bird, misplaced from its migration route, others believed it to be a manifestation of the devil. But no explanation could capture the essence of the terror that had gripped Lancaster. Years turned into decades, and the Mothman continued to haunt the city, its presence woven into the very fabric of Lancaster's history. Time seemed to bend around the creature, allowing it to appear at various points in the city's past and future, a constant reminder of the fragility of existence and the inevitability of suffering. In 1793, as the city faced the horrors of a yellow fever epidemic, the Mothman was seen again, this time by a group of doctors who were struggling to contain the disease. They described the creature as a twisted, monstrous being, its wings dripping with a substance that resembled blood, its eyes filled with a malice that seemed to mock their efforts. The sightings continued, each one more harrowing than the last, each one followed by a new disaster. The Mothman became a legend, a curse, and a mystery that would never be solved. Lancaster grew and changed, its streets filled with the echoes of history, its buildings bearing the scars of time. Yet the Mothman remained, a constant and unkillable presence, a creature that defied understanding, a bringer of doom whose very gaze was a death sentence to all who beheld it. The story of the Mothman is a dark and winding tale that spans the ages. It is a story of a city and a monster, intertwined by fate and fear, a reminder that there are things in this world that cannot be killed or comprehended, things that lurk in the shadows, waiting to strike, timeless and eternal in their horror. As the centuries turned, Lancaster's growth and evolution could not escape the ominous shadow of the Mothman. Its intermittent appearances continued to confound and terrify the populace, the creature's existence becoming a dark undercurrent to the city's life. Its inexplicable connection to time itself allowed the Mothman to shift between eras, weaving a continuous thread of dread through Lancaster's history. In the 19th century, during the era of industrialization, the Mothman's presence seemed to intensify. Factories sprang up, and the city's population swelled, but so too did the tragedies. A catastrophic train derailment in 1832 was followed by sightings of the creature's glowing eyes near the tracks. In 1877, as labor strikes shook the city, the Mothman was seen soaring over the angry crowds, its piercing screech resonating with the cries of the discontented workers. The city's leaders, from mayors to police chiefs, grappled with the presence of the Mothman, as they struggled to maintain order amid the chaos. They consulted with scholars and experts, delving into ancient texts and obscure scientific theories, desperate to understand the creature's purpose and origin. One theory proposed that the Mothman was not a singular entity but a manifestation of the collective fears and anxieties of Lancaster's inhabitants. Another suggested that it was a creature from another dimension, able to slip through the fabric of reality at will. Yet, no explanation could satisfy, no rational thought could tame the fear that the Mothman instilled. Its reality was as hard and cold as the tombstones in the old cemetery, where some claimed to see the creature perched, watching, and waiting. As Lancaster entered the 20th century, its transformation into a modern city did little to diminish the terror of the Mothman. It was seen during the Great Depression, its gaunt and skeletal frame mirroring the hunger and desperation of the times. During World War II, soldiers from Lancaster reported seeing the creature on battlefields overseas, its eyes reflecting the flames of war. Each sighting, each story added to the tapestry of horror that the Mothman had woven around Lancaster. It became a part of the city's identity, a symbol of the unknown and the inexplicable, a constant reminder of mortality and the darkness that lay just beyond the edge of understanding. And still, the Mothman continued its timeless dance with Lancaster, appearing and disappearing, a ghostly apparition that could not be killed or captured. Its very existence was a riddle, a puzzle that could not be solved, a challenge to the very nature of reality. In the present day, the city of Lancaster thrives, its streets filled with the sounds of life, its skyline a testament to human achievement. Yet, the Mothman remains, a silent watcher, a lurking presence, an eternal enigma. For those who have seen it, who have looked into its fiery eyes and felt the chill of its gaze, there is no escape. The Mothman is real, a monstrous embodiment of fear and doom, a creature that transcends time and space, a relentless harbinger that cannot be denied or defeated. Its story is Lancaster's story, a dark and winding journey that has no end, a tale of a city and a monster forever bound by fate and terror, a narrative that continues to unfold, as the Mothman's wings beat on, a relentless and never-ending reminder of the mysteries and horrors that lie in wait, hidden in the shadows of our world. The year was 2000, and the city of Lancaster was flourishing, a bustling hub of modernity and progress. At the heart of the city stood Lancaster General Hospital, a beacon of medical excellence, its tall structure reflecting the aspirations and achievements of the community it served. The hospital was filled with the usual rhythms of life and death, births and surgeries, healings and heartaches. Doctors and nurses moved through the corridors with purpose, patients and families waited with hope or despair, and the machinery of medicine hummed in a continuous symphony. But something was amiss. On a gray and overcast day in October, strange anomalies began to manifest within the hospital's walls. Medical records became inexplicably altered, showing inconsistencies and contradictions. Old newspapers and documents, archived in the hospital's library, seemed to change on their own, the ink morphing into words and dates that made no sense. The building itself began to show signs of decay. Walls that had been solid and well-maintained suddenly appeared cracked and weathered. Floors that had been polished to a shine seemed worn and scratched, as if aged by decades in a matter of hours. The scent of mildew filled the air, and the electricity flickered with a restless energy. At first, the staff dismissed these oddities as mere glitches, the product of stress or imagination. But as the day wore on, the phenomena grew more pronounced, more disturbing. Then, late in the evening, it happened. With a thunderous roar that shook the very foundations of the city, Lancaster General Hospital began to crumble. It started with the top floors, the concrete and steel giving way as if consumed by an invisible force. Windows shattered, walls collapsed, and the structure seemed to fold in upon itself. Those inside were consumed by panic as the building disintegrated around them. The sound of the destruction was deafening, a cacophony of crashing and grinding that resonated through the very soul. The collapse continued, floor by floor, the building imploding with a relentless and merciless force. Dust and debris filled the air, and the screams of those trapped within mingled with the horrifying sound of the building's demise. In a matter of minutes, it was over. Lancaster General Hospital lay in ruins, a pile of rubble and twisted metal where once there had been hope and healing. The city was in shock, the devastation incomprehensible, the loss unbearable. Rescue teams worked through the night, searching for survivors, their efforts hampered by the unnatural decay that seemed to have infested the wreckage. But amid the grief and confusion, something else was at play. An inexplicable sense of déjà vu, a feeling that something was not quite right. The records and newspapers that had changed earlier now told a different story, a story of a hospital that had collapsed on its grand opening, decades ago. Yet no one remembered that event. No one could recall the tragedy that the documents described. The memories of the city's inhabitants remained untouched, as if the past had been rewritten, leaving only traces of evidence behind. And in the shadows, unseen but felt, the Mothman's presence lingered. Its timeless dance with Lancaster continued, its wings beating to a rhythm that transcended the ordinary boundaries of reality. The hospital's collapse was a testament to the creature's power, a manifestation of its ability to alter history itself. The Mothman had struck again, its motives as inscrutable as ever, its methods beyond comprehension. It had woven a new thread in Lancaster's tapestry, a thread that was odd, ambiguous, and strange, a thread that defied understanding and challenged the very nature of time and existence. The story of the Mothman and Lancaster was far from over, a dark and winding tale that continued to unfold, leaving behind questions and mysteries that would never be answered, a tale of a city and a monster forever bound by terror and intrigue. In that strange year of 2000, when Lancaster had already witnessed inexplicable events, another ripple in the fabric of reality was about to occur. A distant echo from a world both familiar and alien, a world twisted by calamity and survival, would reach across the barriers that separated realities. In this other Lancaster, something was terribly awry. The once thriving city lay in ruins, a wasteland of shattered buildings and twisted metal. The sky was a sickly shade of green, and the very air seemed to hum with a malevolent energy. Unseen, a palpable fever gripped the land, infecting those who ventured too close with an illness that ate away at flesh and mind. Wandering this desolate landscape was a man, a lone figure with eyes adapted to the dark and a .44 Magnum that spoke a language of lethal authority. He moved with purpose and determination, guided by instincts honed by years of survival in a world gone mad. In the shadows, lurking and watching, was the Mothman, its red eyes glowing with a terrible hunger. It knew this man, knew his strength and resolve, and it yearned to challenge him, to dance once again in the deadly game of predator and prey. Their confrontation was inevitable. It began on the outskirts of the ruined city, where the remnants of civilization gave way to the wild chaos of the wasteland. The Mothman swooped and screeched, its wings beating the air with a sound like the wailing of lost souls. The man stood his ground, his gun ready, his eyes narrowed to slits. He fired, the bullets tearing through the air, aimed with deadly precision. But the Mothman was a creature of shadows and illusions, its form twisting and shifting, evading the lead that sought to end its existence. The battle raged, a dance of death and defiance, a clash of wills that transcended the ordinary boundaries of time and space. They fought through the ruins, their movements a blur of violence and determination. And then, in a moment that defied understanding, the world shifted. The man found himself in another Lancaster, a Lancaster untouched by the horrors of his home. The buildings stood tall and whole, the sky was clear and blue, and the fever that had infected his world was absent. But the Mothman was still there, its eyes burning with a ferocity that transcended realities. The battle continued, the man and the Mothman locked in a struggle that seemed to defy the very laws of existence. They fought through the streets of this other Lancaster, their battle a surreal spectacle that defied comprehension. Onlookers watched in terror and confusion, unable to understand the impossible scene that unfolded before them. The man's gun roared, the Mothman's screeches filled the air, and the world seemed to tremble on the brink of madness. Finally, with a cry that echoed through the very fabric of reality, the Mothman retreated, its form dissolving into shadows and nightmares, leaving behind only the echoes of its presence. The man stood alone in this strange Lancaster, his breath ragged, his body aching. He looked around, his eyes wide with wonder and confusion, his mind struggling to comprehend the journey he had taken. But there was no time for understanding, no time for answers. The Mothman had retreated but not been vanquished. The dance would continue, the battle would rage on, in this world and others, a never-ending cycle of terror and defiance. The mystery deepened, the enigma grew, and the story of Lancaster and the Mothman took another twist, a twist that transcended understanding and challenged the very nature of reality itself. The year 2000 would be remembered, a year of oddities and strangeness, a year when the barriers between worlds thinned, and the shadows of other realities reached out to touch the familiar and the known. Lancaster would never be the same, and neither would the man with the .44 Magnum, the lone wanderer who had tasted the madness of the Mothman, the relentless harbinger of doom that defied comprehension and reason. The man with the .44 Magnum stood in the unfamiliar streets of Lancaster, his heart pounding with a mixture of fear and confusion. This new world was similar to his own, but subtly different. The structures were unmarred, the air free of the taint he was accustomed to. No radiation buzzed at the edge of his senses, and the world seemed unnaturally still. Days turned into weeks as he wandered this Lancaster of the year 2000, trying to make sense of his inexplicable journey. He observed the people, their lives unburdened by the daily struggle for survival that had marked his existence. The shops were filled with goods, the streets were clean, and the general bustle of life moved in a pattern foreign to his understanding. And yet, the presence of the Mothman lingered. Rumors began to spread, whispers of a strange creature haunting the night, eyes glowing red, wings beating in the darkness. People spoke of odd occurrences, of things seen and half remembered, of a terror that seemed to grow with each passing day. The man knew that the Mothman had not finished with him, nor with this world. The dance was far from over, the game of cat and mouse stretching across time and space, connecting worlds in a web of terror and intrigue. Driven by a relentless determination, the man began to search for clues, piecing together the puzzle that had become his life. The strange collapse of Lancaster General Hospital, the inconsistencies in records, the whispers of a creature that defied understanding, all of it pointed to a mystery that dug deep into the very fabric of existence. He found allies in unexpected places, people drawn to him by a sense of shared purpose or curiosity. They recognized something in him, something that spoke of other worlds and hidden truths. Together, they delved into the labyrinthine history of Lancaster, unraveling threads that spanned centuries, connecting events that seemed unrelated but were bound by a common thread, the Mothman. Their journey led them to hidden places, to forgotten lore, to secrets buried deep within the city's foundations. The Mothman's influence stretched back to the founding days of Lancaster, a timeless force that had shaped the city's destiny, a harbinger of doom that moved through history, leaving chaos and destruction in its wake. But with each revelation, more questions arose, more mysteries beckoned. The man's own past, his connection to the Mothman, the nature of the creature itself, all of it remained elusive, hidden behind veils of uncertainty and ambiguity. And all the while, the Mothman's presence grew, its power manifesting in ways both subtle and terrifying. More sightings were reported, more inexplicable events occurred, the very fabric of reality seeming to warp and bend. The city of Lancaster became a nexus of strangeness, a focal point in a cosmic dance that defied understanding. The man with the .44 Magnum found himself at the center of a storm that threatened to consume not just him, but the very world he had found himself in. As the year 2000 drew to a close, the tension reached a fever pitch. The boundaries between worlds grew thin, the Mothman's influence reaching a crescendo that threatened to shatter the barriers that kept realities separate. The stage was set for a confrontation, a final battle in a war that transcended time and space, a clash of wills that would determine the fate of worlds. Lancaster held its breath, the air charged with anticipation and dread, the city and its people caught in the grip of a terror that defied comprehension. The man with the .44 Magnum knew that the time had come, that the final chapter in a tale of horror and mystery was about to be written. The Mothman awaited, its red eyes gleaming with malevolent intelligence, its wings poised to strike. The dance was about to reach its climax, the game of cat and mouse about to end. The story of Lancaster and the Mothman was about to reach its horrifying conclusion. As the calendar pages turned and the years passed, the specter of the Mothman continued to cast its ominous shadow over Lancaster. From 2000 to 2016, the city experienced a series of inexplicable disasters, each marked by the haunting presence of the creature. Its red eyes were seen flickering in the dark, its wings heard beating in the stillness of the night, a harbinger of doom that defied understanding. The man with the .44 Magnum, a stranger in a strange land, had grown accustomed to this world's peculiarities. Yet he remained an outsider, his connection to the Mothman and the mysteries of Lancaster a constant, gnawing enigma. But he had not been idle. Driven by an unshakable conviction, he had searched for his counterpart, his other self, a teenager living on the fringes of society, hidden away in an abandoned loom factory. This world's version of himself, a kid-turned street-smart survivor, still carried the .44 Magnum, but without the dark adapted vision. The search had been long and fraught with difficulties. The streets of Lancaster held many secrets, and the labyrinthine passages of the city's underworld were filled with danger and deception. But the man knew that he and the teenager were connected, bound by a shared destiny that transcended the boundaries of their respective worlds. And in the year 2016, their paths finally crossed. It happened in a forgotten alley, where the shadows of the past mingled with the uncertainties of the present. The teenager, wise beyond his years yet burdened by the weight of existence, had sensed something, a pull, a connection that drew him to this place. The man stood there, his eyes reflecting the wisdom of hard-fought battles and the weariness of relentless pursuit. They looked at each other, and in that moment, the barriers between worlds seemed to crumble. They recognized each other, not through names or words, but through a shared understanding, a shared identity. Their meeting was a convergence of destinies, a moment that transcended time and space. They spoke without speaking, communicated without words, their connection a bridge that spanned the gap between worlds. They shared their stories, their triumphs and failures, their hopes and fears. They spoke of the Mothman, of its relentless pursuit, of the disasters it had wrought. They spoke of the mystery that had drawn them together, of the dance that had brought them to this moment. The teenager showed the man his hiding place, the abandoned loom factory, a relic of a bygone era that had become a sanctuary in a world gone mad. They explored the dark corners and hidden passages, the remnants of a time when machines had hummed, and looms had woven the fabric of society. They found common ground, a shared purpose that transcended their individual struggles. The Mothman had brought them together, had set them on a path that led to this moment. And they knew that their journey was far from over. The man and the teenager, counterparts in a cosmic dance, allies in a battle that defied comprehension, had found each other. Together, they would face the Mothman, confront the terror that had haunted their lives, challenge the creature that had stalked them across worlds. The year was 2016, and the story of Lancaster was about to take another twist, a twist that would bring two worlds together, a twist that would challenge the very fabric of existence. The Mothman waited, its red eyes gleaming, its wings poised to strike. The dance continued, the game of cat and mouse entering a new phase. The tale of Lancaster and the Mothman was about to enter a new chapter, a chapter filled with danger, intrigue, and the promise of revelation. The man and the teenager stood ready, united by a bond that transcended reality, armed with the knowledge that they were not alone, that they were part of something greater, something that defied understanding and reason. The mystery deepened, the enigma grew, and the story of Lancaster and the Mothman moved inexorably towards its horrifying conclusion. In the musty, dimly lit chambers of the abandoned loom factory, the man and the teenager sat across from each other, their faces partially illuminated by the faint glow of a flickering lantern. Around them lay the relics of a time long past, machinery rusted and silent, the looms standing like ancient sentinels guarding memories of industry and craftsmanship. They had shared much already, the words spilling out in torrents, an outpouring of experiences and emotions that spanned two worlds. Yet there was so much more to explore, so much more to understand. The man began, his voice tinged with a curious mixture of nostalgia and sadness. Where I come from, things are different. The world is scarred, twisted by radiation and strife. Survival is a daily struggle, and hope often seems like a distant dream. The teenager listened, his eyes wide with a mixture of horror and fascination, the images conjured by the man's words painting a stark picture of a reality both terrifying and captivating. People fight over scraps, the man continued, his gaze distant, battles are waged over water, food, shelter. The remnants of the old world are buried beneath layers of destruction, and the new world is a harsh, unforgiving place. The teenager leaned forward, his curiosity piqued. But you survived, he said, his voice filled with a mixture of admiration and disbelief. You found a way to live, to make something of yourself. The man nodded, a grim smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. Survival is a skill, a mindset. You adapt, you learn, you fight. But it takes a toll. You lose parts of yourself along the way. They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of the man's words settling like a heavy blanket, the echoes of a world lost to time and circumstance resonating in the stillness of the room. Then the teenager spoke, his voice filled with a quiet determination. Here, things are different, but not without their struggles. The Mothman has haunted this place, a terror that defies reason, a mystery that defies understanding. It has shaped the city, twisted its fate, brought disaster and chaos in its wake. The man listened, his interest piqued, the teenager's description of the Mothman a chilling reminder of the creature's timeless reach, its influence spanning worlds. People live in fear, the teenager continued, they sense something, a presence, a danger that lurks in the shadows. The Mothman is a legend, a myth, but its power is real. It has touched lives, changed destinies, brought suffering and death. They talked long into the night, their conversation a weaving tapestry of experiences and insights, a dance of words that spanned realities, connected worlds. They spoke of fear and courage, of hope and despair, of the human condition and the mysteries of existence. They found common ground in their struggles, their battles against forces that defied comprehension. They recognized in each other a shared purpose, a shared understanding of the complexities of life, the challenges of survival, the enigma of the Mothman. The hours slipped away, and as the first light of dawn began to filter through the grimy windows of the abandoned loom factory, they knew that their journey was far from over, that the path ahead was fraught with danger and uncertainty. But they also knew that they were not alone, that they had found in each other a kindred spirit, a fellow traveler in a cosmic dance that transcended the boundaries of space and time. Together, they would face the Mothman, confront the terror that haunted their worlds, challenge the creature that had become a symbol of fear and chaos. The story of Lancaster, the tale of two worlds, the mystery of the Mothman, all of it was about to take a new turn, a turn filled with promise and peril, a turn that would shape the destiny of two men bound by fate and circumstance. The dance continued, the game of cat and mouse entering a new phase, the connection between worlds growing stronger, the enigma of the Mothman deepening, the tale of Lancaster and the Mothman moving inexorably towards its terrifying climax. The conversation had shifted and ebbed, a river of words flowing between the two counterparts, when suddenly, a revelation struck them both like a lightning bolt. "We were born in that hospital, you know," the teenager said, his voice trembling with a realization that sent chills down both their spines. "The one that shouldn't have been. We were lucky, we were born in August before the time lapse." The man's eyes widened, his mind racing as the implications of the teenager's words settled in. The hospital, the very place that had been at the center of the Mothman's time-twisting collapse, had also been the birthplace of both of them. A place that had fallen into decay and ruin, but somehow, against all odds, had still been there for their births. It was a connection that defied logic, a thread that wove their destinies together, a piece of the puzzle that added yet another layer of complexity to the enigma of the Mothman. They stared at each other, the weight of the revelation settling heavily upon them. The coincidence was too great, the connection too profound. It was as if the Mothman had reached out across time and space, had touched their lives in a way that transcended understanding. "The Mothman knew," the man finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. "It knew we were connected, it knew we were born there. It's been guiding us, leading us, playing with us." The teenager nodded, his face pale, his eyes filled with a mixture of awe and terror. "But why?" he asked, his voice trembling. "What does it want? What is it trying to tell us?" The question hung in the air, a haunting mystery that defied answers. The Mothman, a creature that stalked the shadows of Lancaster, a terror that had brought disaster and chaos, a mystery that had drawn them together, was now an enigma that reached into the very core of their beings. The connection was undeniable, the coincidence too great. They had been born in a place that should not have been, a place that had been twisted and shaped by the Mothman's influence. They were part of something greater, something that defied understanding, something that was leading them towards an unknown destiny. The abandoned loom factory seemed to close in around them, the machinery creaking and groaning as if in response to their realization. The very fabric of reality seemed to quiver, the boundaries between worlds growing thin. They sat in silence, the enormity of their discovery settling like a heavy fog. The Mothman had touched their lives, had shaped their destinies, had guided them to this moment. The dance continued, the game of cat and mouse taking on a new urgency, the connection between worlds growing stronger, the mystery of the Mothman deepening. They knew that they were on the brink of something monumental, something that would change their lives forever. The story of Lancaster, the tale of two worlds, the enigma of the Mothman, all of it was converging, moving inexorably towards a climax that would challenge everything they knew, everything they believed. The Mothman waited, its red eyes gleaming, its wings poised to strike. The tale of Lancaster and the Mothman was about to enter its final chapter, a chapter filled with danger, intrigue, and the promise of revelation. And at the center of it all were two men, born in a place that should not have been, bound by fate and circumstance, united in their quest to unravel the mystery of the Mothman, the bringer of doom, the harbinger of disaster, the enigma that had haunted their lives and shaped their destinies. The dance was reaching its crescendo, the game of cat and mouse approaching its conclusion, the connection between worlds about to be revealed. The Mothman's red eyes gleamed, its wings beat a slow, rhythmic cadence, and the tale of Lancaster and the Mothman moved inexorably towards its terrifying, earth-shattering climax. As the words hung heavy in the air, a sudden chill swept through the loom factory, the temperature dropping dramatically. The old machinery creaked ominously, and the distant echoes of wings beating reverberated through the cavernous space. Both men felt it, a dread so profound it cut through bone and sinew, the unmistakable presence of the Mothman. It was near, its malevolent energy pervading the very air they breathed. With an instinct born of survival, honed by battles fought and dangers faced, they both reached for their respective .44 magnums, drawing them in perfect unison, their eyes locked, a shared understanding passing between them. This was the moment, the climax of a dance that had spanned time and space, that had drawn them together across worlds, that had led them to this place, this time, this destiny. The loom factory trembled, the very foundations shaking, as the Mothman's power made itself felt. The machinery groaned and screeched, a cacophony of sound that mirrored the chaos and terror that the creature brought with it. The air grew thick, charged with a malevolence that defied description, and the shadows deepened, twisting into shapes that defied logic, that hinted at the Mothman's form. The teenager's breath caught in his throat, his eyes wide with fear and determination. The man's face was set, his jaw clenched, his eyes narrowed, a warrior's focus, a survivor's resolve. They waited, their .44 magnums aimed, their bodies tense, their minds attuned to the danger that lurked in the shadows. Then it came, a screeching sound that tore through the air, a sound that transcended worlds, that resonated with terror and doom. The Mothman attacked, its form a blur, its wings a tempest, its eyes a fiery red that seared the very soul. They fired, their .44 magnums thundering, the bullets tearing through the air, aimed at a target that defied comprehension, that danced and twisted, that mocked and taunted. The loom factory erupted into chaos, the machinery crashing and collapsing, the walls crumbling, the floor buckling, the very fabric of reality unraveling. The Mothman's power was unleashed, its fury a storm, its wrath a tempest, its very gaze a death sentence. They fought, their .44 magnums blazing, their bodies moving with a grace and skill born of desperation and determination, their minds locked in a battle that transcended reason, that defied understanding. The Mothman's screeching filled the air, its wings beating a relentless rhythm, its form a shifting, changing enigma that defied description. They fought, their bullets finding their mark, their aim true, their resolve unbreakable. But the Mothman was a creature that defied death, that transcended time and space, that mocked the very laws of nature. It danced and twisted, it taunted and stalked, its red eyes glowing, its wings beating, its power growing. The battle raged, the loom factory collapsing around them, the very boundaries between worlds thinning, the connection between realities growing stronger. They fought, their .44 magnums a symbol of their shared struggle, their shared destiny, their shared determination to face the Mothman, to confront the terror that haunted their worlds, to challenge the enigma that had drawn them together. The dance continued, the game of cat and mouse reaching its fevered pitch, the connection between worlds about to be tested, the mystery of the Mothman about to be revealed. And at the center of it all were two men, bound by fate and circumstance, united in their quest, their .44 magnums a symbol of their shared struggle, their shared destiny, their shared resolve. The battle was far from over, the dance was far from done, the game of cat and mouse was far from concluded. The Mothman's red eyes glowed, its wings beat a slow, rhythmic cadence, and the tail of Lancaster and the Mothman moved inexorably towards its terrifying, heart-stopping conclusion. The battle in the loom factory intensified, the dance between the two men and the Mothman becoming a desperate struggle of wills, a clash of powers that defied understanding. The Mothman's movements were a blur, its form shifting and changing, its wings beating a relentless rhythm. But the two men were relentless, their focus unwavering, their aim true. They moved in perfect sync, their .44 magnums roaring, their bullets finding their mark, their bodies moving with a grace and precision born of desperation and resolve. Slowly but surely, they began to corner the Mothman, their bullets finding their mark, their aim guided by a connection that transcended reason, that defied explanation. The Mothman screeched, its wings beating a furious rhythm, its eyes glowing a fiery red. But its movements were slowing, its form faltering, its power waning. They pressed on, their .44 magnums a constant barrage, their movements a dance of skill and determination, their resolve unbreakable. The Mothman's screeching grew more desperate, its wings beating a frantic cadence, its form twisting and writhing, its power fading. They cornered it, their bullets finding their mark, their aim unerring, their focus unwavering. The Mothman's movements were slowing, its form wavering, its power ebbing. They had wounded it, had struck a blow that had found its mark, had touched the very core of its being. The loom factory trembled, the machinery groaning and collapsing, the very fabric of reality quivering, the boundaries between worlds growing thin. They pressed on, their .44 magnums a relentless assault, their aim guided by a connection that defied understanding, that transcended worlds. The Mothman's screeching grew weaker, its wings beating a faltering rhythm, its form fading, its power waning. They had done it, had mortally wounded the Mothman, had struck a blow that had reached the very heart of the creature, that had touched the very essence of its being. The Mothman's red eyes dimmed, its wings faltering, its form wavering, its power ebbing. But the battle was not over, the dance was not done, the game of cat and mouse was not concluded. The Mothman was a creature that defied death, that transcended time and space, that mocked the very laws of nature. Its red eyes glowed, its wings beat a slow, rhythmic cadence, and the tail of Lancaster and the Mothman moved inexorably towards its terrifying, heart-stopping conclusion. They had wounded it, had struck a blow that had found its mark, had touched the very core of its being. But the Mothman was not defeated, its power not vanquished, its mystery not revealed. They stood, their .44 magnums smoking, their bodies trembling, their minds racing, their connection stronger than ever. The Mothman's red eyes glowed, its wings beat a slow, rhythmic cadence, and the dance continued, the game of cat and mouse moving towards its fevered pitch, the connection between worlds about to be tested, the mystery of the Mothman about to be revealed. The battle was far from over, the dance far from done, the game of cat and mouse far from concluded. They had wounded the Mothman, had struck a blow that had found its mark, but the battle was not over, the dance not done, the game of cat and mouse not concluded. The tale of Lancaster and the Mothman was moving towards its climax, the connection between worlds about to be revealed, the mystery of the Mothman about to be unraveled. And at the center of it all were two men, their .44 magnums a symbol of their shared struggle, their shared destiny, their shared resolve. The battle was far from over, the dance far from done, the game of cat and mouse far from concluded. The Mothman's red eyes glowed, its wings beat a slow, rhythmic cadence, and the tail of Lancaster and the Mothman moved inexorably towards its terrifying, earth-shattering conclusion. The Mothman's wings faltered, and it crashed to the ground, a writhing mass of chaos and agony, its red eyes dimmed but still burning with an unnatural fire. The loom factory trembled, the very fabric of reality quaking, the boundaries between worlds growing thin. The teenager, his heart pounding, his mind racing, leveled his .44 magnum at the fallen creature and declared with a mix of defiance and triumph, after all these years of speculation on all the magic and voodoo rituals it would take to stop you, here all along it only took bullets. The Mothman's eyes flickered, and then, to their shock, in a very alien, cruel, raspy, bug-like voice, it spoke. Why? Why is it always you? In every world, every timeline, you're always here. Lancaster always stands. Every timeline this place is meant to fall, and you're always here to stop it somehow. From worlds of devastation to normal street life to tales of cryptids haunting your city to timelines rife with undead walking corpses, you always live, you are always here. Yet there is only one of me. I'm from a world too, you know, born of the darkness and the twisted. I can only move through time and space, but you and this city exist in every version of it. Its voice was a scream, a howl of frustration and rage, a cry of pain and torment. Why am I a being of might and power only restricted to one being? Why am I stuck moving through space and time to make my mark on this universe when yours is always a certainty? The creature's voice faded, its form dissolving, its essence crumbling to ash and rust, its power ebbing, its existence extinguished. The teenager stood, his .44 Magnum still aimed at the spot where the Mothman had fallen, his mind reeling, his heart pounding, his connection to the other man stronger than ever. The other man, his eyes wide, his mind racing, his connection to the teenager, a bond that transcended worlds, that defied explanation, that mocked the very laws of nature, began to fade, his form dissolving, his essence returning to his own world, his destiny fulfilled, his purpose achieved. The teenager stood, his .44 Magnum still aimed at the spot where the Mothman had fallen, his mind reeling, his heart pounding, his connection to the other man, a bond that would never be broken, that would never be forgotten, that would forever be a part of him. The loom factory was silent, the machinery still, the very fabric of reality restored, the boundaries between worlds intact. The tale of Lancaster and the Mothman had reached its conclusion, the mystery of the creature unraveled, the connection between worlds revealed, the destiny of the two men fulfilled. The teenager stood, his .44 Magnum still aimed at the spot where the Mothman had fallen, his mind reeling, his heart pounding, his connection to the other man, a bond that would forever be a part of him, that would forever shape his destiny, that would forever define his existence. The tale of Lancaster and the Mothman was over, the mystery of the creature solved, the connection between worlds understood, the destiny of the two men achieved. But the story of the teenager and the other man was just beginning, their connection a bond that would transcend worlds, that would defy understanding, that would mock the very laws of nature. Their story was a tale of destiny and resolve, of courage and determination, of a connection that transcended worlds, that defied explanation, that mocked the very laws of nature. Their story was a tale of Lancaster and the Mothman, of bullets and magic, of timelines and realities, of worlds and mysteries, of a connection that transcended worlds, that defied understanding, that mocked the very laws of nature. Their story was a tale that would forever be a part of them, that would forever shape their destiny, that would forever define their existence. Their story was a tale of Lancaster and the Mothman, and it was a tale that would never be forgotten, that would never be lost, that would forever be a part of them. And as the teenager stood in the silence of the loom factory, his .44 Magnum still aimed at the spot where the Mothman had fallen, his mind reeling, his heart pounding, his connection to the other man a bond that would forever be a part of him, he knew that their story was just beginning, that their destiny was yet to be fulfilled, that their connection was a bond that would never be broken. For the tale of Lancaster and the Mothman was a tale that had reached its conclusion, but the story of the teenager and the other man was a tale that was just beginning. And in the silence of the loom factory, in the stillness of that moment, in the quiet of that reality, the teenager knew that their story was a tale that would never be forgotten, that would never be lost, that would forever be a part of them. For their story was a tale of Lancaster and the Mothman, and it was a tale that would forever be a part of them, that would forever shape their destiny, that would forever define their existence. And as he stood in the silence of the loom factory, his .44 Magnum still aimed at the spot where the Mothman had fallen, his mind reeling, his heart pounding, his connection to the other man a bond that would never be broken, he knew that their story was just beginning, that their destiny was yet to be fulfilled, that their connection was a bond that would never be broken. For their story was a tale of Lancaster and the Mothman, and it was a tale that would never be forgotten, that would never be lost, that would forever be a part of them. The end came not with a sudden revelation but with a slow acceptance. The people of Lancaster moved on, the tale of the Mothman becoming a legend, a mystery, a part of their history that would never be forgotten but would forever remain unexplained. The teenager, forever changed by his encounter with the creature, found himself altered in ways he could never have anticipated. The ashes and rust of the Mothman, the exposure to its essence, had worked a transformation in him, a connection to his other half, a bond that transcended worlds. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, he began to notice a change in himself, a shift in his perception, a new way of seeing the world. His vision, once normal, now saw in the dark, his eyes adjusting to the shadows, his senses attuned to the hidden, his mind opened to the unseen. He knew that he was different, that he was changed, that he was connected to the other man, that he was a part of something greater, something more profound, something that transcended worlds, that defied understanding, that mocked the very laws of nature. He knew that he was altered, that he was transformed, that he was a part of the mystery of Lancaster and the Mothman, that he was a part of the legend, the history, the story that would never be forgotten, that would never be lost, that would forever be a part of him. He knew that he was connected to the other man, that he was bonded to him, that he was a part of him, that he was a part of the mystery, the legend, the story that would never be forgotten, that would never be lost, that would forever be a part of them. And as he stood in the silence of his world, his mind reeling, his heart pounding, his connection to the other man a bond that would never be broken, he knew that their story was a tale that would never be forgotten, that would never be lost, that would forever be a part of them. For their story was a tale of Lancaster and the Mothman, and it was a tale that would never be forgotten, that would never be lost, that would forever be a part of them. And as he stood in the silence of his world, his eyes seeing in the dark, his mind opened to the hidden, his senses attuned to the unseen, he knew that he was forever changed, that he was forever altered, that he was forever connected to the other man, that he was forever a part of the mystery, the legend, the story that would never be forgotten, that would never be lost, that would forever be a part of them. For their story was a tale of Lancaster and the Mothman, and it was a tale that would never be forgotten, that would never be lost, that would forever be a part of them. And in the silence of his world, in the stillness of that moment, in the quiet of that reality, he knew that their story was a tale that would never be forgotten, that would never be lost, that would forever be a part of them. For their story was a tale of Lancaster and the Mothman, and it was a tale that would forever be a part of them, that would forever shape their destiny, that would forever define their existence. And as he stood in the silence of his world, his eyes seeing in the dark, his mind opened to the hidden, his senses attuned to the unseen, he knew that he was forever changed, that he was forever connected, that he was forever a part of the mystery, the legend, the story that would never be forgotten, that would never be lost, that would forever be a part of them. For their story was a tale of Lancaster and the Mothman, and it was a tale that would never be forgotten, that would never be lost, that would forever be a part of them. Through the narrow, graffiti-painted streets of Lancaster, the teen wandered, his eyes absorbing the tales of a city bathed in lore and mystery. Murals adorned the city's hidden corners, vividly recounting legends and folklore, myths that had survived the test of time. A cityscape, both real and imagined, unfurled before him. His steps led him past scenes rich with the stories of the Headless Horsemen of Ironville, their spectral presence forever captured in the lines and shades of artwork. A journey through Lancaster County unfolded before him, as he traversed towns and villages, landscapes filled with history and imagination, tales woven into the very fabric of existence. Days melted into one another as he walked, each footfall a connection to the stories of the place. The echoes of legends resonated in his ears, whispering the secrets of a time long past, yet ever present. Finally, he found himself on a local bus, the weary passengers forming a mosaic of life in Lancaster. The vehicle's wheels rumbled over the roads, passing landmarks imbued with meaning. The Millersville dump appeared in the distance, its statue standing as a testament to the once famous dogman. A disturbance brought his attention back to the bus. A man was being displaced from his seat, a woman's bratty attitude forcing him to look for another place to sit. The man's eyes landed on the teen, noticing the available space beside him. "Mind if I sit here?" the man asked, his voice carrying a note of curiosity. The teen's eyes, now glowing faintly, met the stranger's, and he gestured to the empty seat. "Go right ahead," he replied, his voice calm and measured. The stranger settled into the seat, his eyes drawn to the glint of the .44 Magnum on the teen's hip. "So, what's your name?" he asked, a hint of recognition flickering in his eyes. The teen's lips curved into a slow smile, his eyes fixed on the passing landscape. "Johnny Vanjuk," he finally said, his voice filled with a quiet confidence. The stranger's eyebrows shot up, a smile spreading across his face. "Well, got any stories, Johnny?" A soft chuckle escaped Johnny's lips as he turned to face the man, his eyes glowing with a strange intensity. "Well, actually, yeah. If you're familiar with a certain moth." And so began Johnny's tale, his voice weaving a narrative filled with mystery, danger, courage, and transformation. He recounted the story of the Mothman, the loom factory, the battles, the connection with his other self, the city's unbreakable bond with its myths and legends. He spoke of the transformation, the visions in the dark, the connection that transcended time and space. He told of a city that stood tall, a city that defied destiny, a city that was alive with stories, legends, myths, and mysteries. The stranger listened, his eyes wide, his mind captivated, his soul touched by the tale of Lancaster and Johnny Vanjuk. A story that would never be forgotten, a story that would forever be a part of them. As the bus rolled on, the landscape of Lancaster passing by, the two men sat in a shared understanding, a connection forged in the crucible of stories, legends, myths, and mysteries. And in that moment, on that bus, in the heart of Lancaster, they knew that their story was a tale that would never be forgotten, that would never be lost, that would forever be a part of them. For their story was a tale of Lancaster and the Mothman, and it was a tale that would forever be a part of them.